1% of the population has a huge chunk of the money. But you know, if you take that 1% and you divide them into 99% and 1%, the top 1% of the 1% has almost all the money that the top 1% has. And then if you take the top 1% of 1% and you divide them into 99% and 1%, the top 1% of that tiny slice has almost all of the money that that tiny slice has. Productivity is always in the hands of a few. And no one knows what to do about that, or even if there's anything that can be done about it, or even if there's anything that should be done about it.
It's such a strange phenomenon. It's like the square root of the number of people operating in a specific discipline produce half the output. That's the law. And so if there's 1,000 scientists working on a particular, in a discipline, 30 of them publish half the papers.
If you're a person who can turn up on time with a firm handshake, who is genuinely competent, who doesn't lie to anybody, you're going to be fine. You're never going to starve. You're always going to be able to make good money if you're a genuinely honest, hardworking person. I've never met a honest, hardworking person who will be there at 9 a.m. like you asked him to be, who completely fails. So I think a lot of people who are still out here failing, they have a bunch of excuses. And yeah, we talk about how hard it is, and it's true. But if you're genuinely about it, and you can find somebody with that star factor and align yourself to them, I think you can make money no matter who you are.
The old thing, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, that is the definition of insanity. So if you don't like where you are, you gotta change something.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff out there right now that you can't control. But there are some things you can control, and if you control and make the changes in the areas that you control the controllables, you're going to see a real positive response in the math, in your numbers, but also in your anxiety level going down.
How does this wealth arise? It's if you organize people in a better way to produce products and services that are better than what existed before, and you have some ownership in that company, then that essentially gives you the right to allocate more capital.
I grew up in a household of entrepreneurs, and so they taught us that you can do it. That all you've got to do is leave the cave, kill something, and drag it home. I mean, that you can go out there and make something in this world, and that the free enterprise system is not broken, and it's tough, it's hard, but you can do it. And so I believed that, and I still believe it.
You can be below average IQ and still get very rich. A very small percentage of people are too dumb to be rich. The slave minds, they'll never be rich because the matrix tries to keep you poor, because when you're poor, you can't think, like we talked about earlier. So everything the media tells you is designed to make you poor. They want you broke and struggling, because if you rely on the government for food stamps, you can't argue with the government, can you? So that's what they want. So anyone who believes in the matrix and believes in media and believes in the lies they're told, anyone who sits there and goes, that's true, it's literally designed to make you broke. That's why it's all a scam.
I think that people of disproportionate intelligence shouldn't be rewarded disproportionately. It's possible that they should, because it might be in the best interest of everyone else to dump as much money as possible to the top 2% of the cognitive strata, because they're going to be most generative with it. And so, and even if it's not fair, because you might say, well, just because you won the genetic lottery, does that mean that you should have more money than anyone else? It's like, well, not on the grounds of fairness, but if you have to distribute money, well, who are you going to distribute it to?
In this world, the way to get the first 1 to 10 million ends up being 80% of them, a little about 83% of them, had two things that showed up almost every time. Number one, they funded their 401k in good mutual funds and their Roth IRAs in good mutual funds over an extended period of time, 12 to 17 years. That's not that long, but that was long. It's longer than 5 minutes, and it's not get rich quick. During that time, the average millionaire paid off their home in 10.2 years. And so what we've got is, we've got a guy or a gal that's got $1.5 million net worth, and in there is a $500,000 paid for home and $1 million in their retirement accounts.
So the first thing is you have to pay attention, because if you pay attention, you'll start to learn that money is everywhere. Every building is owned. These are skyscrapers, bro. Billions. Every apartment nowadays is a million. Million. You drive down a street in London, you're driving past trillions of dollars. There's money everywhere. It's all around us. So there's plenty of money in the world. People with no money are just not very good at taking it. So you need to start paying attention. It's the first thing.
part of what puts you up in that upper end of the distribution is something like speed, right? So imagine there's some desirable place to get economically. Maybe you're designing computer chips, that's a good example. Well, if you're faster, you're going to get there sooner, and then you're going to reap the economic rewards, and that speed is assessed with G. It's a function of G, that computational speed.
If you want to follow your broke financial friends' financial advice, you're going to be just like your broke financial friends. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Look at who you're listening to and try to find some data points that are actual facts, not mathematical theory that you discussed while having one too many glasses of wine with someone. You know, it's economic theory, but try to find someone who actually used that theory and became wealthy.
It's hard to make money if you don't know anybody who has money. If you sit in a room full of ice cream experts and all they talk about is ice cream, how to make ice cream, the different flavors, how to store it, how to move it, how to sell it, even by accident, if you hang around with these people long enough, when someone asks you a question about ice cream, guess what you're gonna know the answer. You're gonna say, you know what? That's because it's pistachio, and that needs to be 2 degrees higher than chocolate. And you're gonna look like a smart ass. So if you sit in a room full of people who are making a bunch of money, everyone understands this. Your network is your net worth. You're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Everybody understands this. And then they still hang around with fucking losers, because they're dummies.
The only difference between successful people and not is just how they think. Rich people think different. Quit letting people tell you got to get qualified in another program. You don't need another program to be successful. You need to change the way you think. All of you have everything it takes to become rich. You just don't believe it.
79% of America's millionaires, 79% inherited precisely 0, 8 out of 10. 5% more inherited a small amount like $1,500 or $5,000, mathematically could not have possibly made them a millionaire. Another 5% inherited substantial money like $100,000, $200,000 after they were already millionaires. So 5 and 5 and 79, we're at 89%. 9 out of 10 of America's millionaires did not become millionaires because of an inheritance.
If you're sitting at home with no money, it's hard to invest in Bitcoin at $1. Doesn't matter what it goes to, right? You got to be in a good position to take advantage of things. You've always got to be in a position where you have a good network, you have good information, you have some kind of liquid money, you have the ability to survive without that money, you could take a risk. Like, it's hard to set yourself up. I'm in a position now where I'm in the NBA. I'm an NBA player. I can never go broke again. So it doesn't matter, right? But once you're in the NBA, I can throw $1 million at something. It doesn't matter if it works or not. So for me, it doesn't make a difference. And that's why it's so much easier. They always say the first million is the hardest, and they're completely right. Once you get to a certain point, you can gamble to a degree.
And this is why network is so important, is because it's the same reason that wolves hunt in packs. If you're a lone animal, you have one set of eyes. But if you're a pack, you're watching every single angle, every single side. Perhaps I might miss something. I'm as perspicacious as possible. But one of my friends identifies that the war in Ukraine is going to change and the Russian ruble is going to pump. And you can make a bunch of money on a Forex trade, for example. I may not have noticed, but he'll notice. Now I've made a bunch of $1 million to get a text message, right? Because I have friends who are paying attention. All of us are paying attention. So your network is super important. That's another thing.
You have to be able to get forth your ideas, and that's relatively easy. I did it myself with the Dale Carnegie course. Some people wish I'd taken a shorter course now in terms of my talking later on, but it's just hugely important. And if you invest in yourself, nobody can take it away from you.
How do you fix your life? You fix your life. You don't wait on someone else to fix it. What is money good for? Just to have money is useless. It's just a tool, though. Okay, so now what are we going to do with this tool? This thing that allows me to lift, this thing that allows me to move things. What's the tool for? And then that'll start to give you your why. And you go, gosh, if I had a big pile of money, what would be the benefit of that? Well, I would have margin, I would have choices, I could help others and be generous. I could change my family tree. My kids wouldn't have to worry about going to college, or my relationships, I'd be a lot less stress. And so money, it's what money does that matters.
Life is very difficult and we all die. So, but some people do have it harder than others. And And all of us have it very hard at some times in our lives. It's like, well, what's the alternative? You take responsibility for that and try to struggle uphill, because the alternative makes everything worse.